Hello, everybody. I'm trying this as an experiment in communication, both public and private. There's some things that I would like to draw to Mr. Elon Musk's attention. I interviewed him a while back on my podcast. That was primarily released on X, but also more broadly. We've met a couple of times. I've been watching what he's been doing, like everyone in the world has been. I've been watching your line-by-line analysis of budgetary expenditures at the federal level. And I know, or I think I know, that part of this process, part of the reason you're engaged in this is because you're not happy, you might say, with what Gad Saad has described as the woke mind virus. And you've retweeted Gad a fair bit, and I know you're familiar with his work. Now, I also know, or think I know, that part of the reason that you're unhappy is because of what happened with your son, which you discussed on my podcast and made public. And I noticed during that conversation that to say you were unhappy about what had happened and the advice you got about suicide risk, for example, on the part of children with gender dysphoria was false, despicably false and dangerous, and that you not only haven't recovered from that, but have taken it with all due seriousness. And so it seems to me that your efforts on behalf of investigating the funding that is being shuttled to various agencies and organizations around the world who push the woke progressive agenda are admirable and useful, and hopefully they will be salutary. But I think there's something very important that you're missing, maybe crucially important. You may know or may not, something I discovered partly from talking to the Republican Governors Treasuries Association, but also from going to the Republican governors' meetings and talking to a variety of Republican governors. 50% of the state budgets in the U.S. are devoted to K through 12 education. All the teachers in the K through 12 education system are products of the faculties of education, which I think are among the most, if not the most, ideologically corrupt and incompetent of all the university disciplines. They're major contributors to the dominance of woke culture in the U.S., particularly in the U.S., but also across the West. They attract low-quality students, by and large, and they do terrible research. One example of that, for example, was that the faculties of education, it was faculties of education who came up with the idea of whole word learning, which was a complete bloody catastrophe, foregoing the utility of the phonetic alphabet, which is one of the major inventions of humankind, replacing that with the proposition that you should teach children how to read the same way expert readers read, which was a preposterous theory to begin with, and which had devastating consequences. And the faculties of education pushed multiple intelligence theory, which is a complete crock of nonsense. They pushed self-esteem training, which can't be done and produces narcissists. They cloaked their left-wing ideological propagandizing in economic, social, emotional learning strategies, etc., etc. The faculties of education are an unmitigated disaster. They produce the teachers who have a hammerlock on 50% of the state budgets. They're spending $25,000 a year, thereabouts, per student, when private organizations are capable of providing a higher quality education at 1/10 that cost. The Republicans, conservatives in general, and classic liberals have been completely asleep at the wheel for 60 years as the faculties of education have distributed the demoralizing progressive agenda to the children of everyone liberal, conservative, and progressive alike, through the K through 12 system. And they control 50% of the state budgets. There's not a chance that the progressive agenda is going to be undermined and replaced as long as the faculties of education have a hammerlock on half the state budgets and all the education of all children. So what's the best move? Well, there may be little you can do federally. I don't know the policy details well enough to opine in that regard, but in my opinion, the faculties of education should be stripped of their monopoly on teacher certification. There's no evidence whatsoever that they've produced that the teachers that they purport to educate have been educated in a manner that makes them effective teachers, either because of the way they were selected as students or the way that they're trained and educated as teachers. And so there's no defeating the woke mind virus without breaking the hammerlock of the faculties of education on teacher certification. And so anyways, I know that you're as busy as any human being can possibly be, but I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in for what it's worth. And while doing, inform everybody else about my thoughts on the matter and the way forward that I think might be most appropriate. Thanks very much for your time and attention.